Good morning, everybody. Welcome to another steamy morning out here in the Sugar Shack. We got the last batch going here, and you'll see things look a little different, and I'll flip you around and tell you why. So what we have here is the rear pan is maple. You can see the drips going, boils going good. I got 15 gallons to cook today, but the front pan is walnut. I've never had walnut syrup. I've only heard things about it. I have two massive walnuts here, so I figured, why not? It's my last hurrah. I pulled my taps yesterday, so I figured, why not? I got just shy of 5 gallons from 2 trees. They're huge trees. They don't put out nearly as much sap as maples do, but so I'm kind of improvising here because I don't have a pre-warmer like I do for the maple. So I just went and got one of these pans from the grocery store just to kind of make this warmer before I'm going to bring down a metal spoon and just ladle it into there as that level goes down. So I'm just improvising here. And then when this one finishes, because it is going to finish faster than that one, I will empty it. I'll pour it because this one comes off first anyway. And then I'll see where I'm at with the maple. I will then get the siphon tubes here, and I will then start putting maple into that one. So it's going to have to be a very quick little bit of a ballet dance here. But I'm looking forward to this, mostly because this is the last day. This is it. This is all I got. I'll have to look at the numbers again, and I can put them up here. But I was just shy, like half gallon shy of 150 gallons in 42 days, which is not too shabby for a 1 acre piece of property with a few trees on it, in my opinion. So I know I said I wasn't going to do a video of each cook, but I did one on the first, and I'm going to do one today as well too, since it's the last. I'll give you some of my opinions of what I should have done differently, what I would do differently moving forward, things I wish I wouldn't have done, things I wish I did do, and I'll put them all in this video here. One last hurrah. It's been a few hours. Things are going smooth, of course, which is good. I've learned a lot over let me turn the fan on, actually. Yeah, there we go, so I don't have to yell. I've learned a lot over the last 40 some days as far as how to make this work more efficiently, what to expect. One thing about me journaling and keeping track, taking notes throughout the season, has kind of given me something that I can shoot for. I know that if I have this much sap, that I should end with about this much syrup, and it should take me about yay long. So it's been a learning process and keeping track of all that, just not so that I can predict, but just prepare, and that I'm super thankful for. And let me flip you around here, show you what we got going on. We got the walnut is almost going to be to the point where I can take it off and bring it inside to finish. Especially since I don't have much history, or any history or experience with walnut. I kind of want to have that more controlled. Do that inside, especially since that's going to take a little longer. I believe in this, I'm just under 5 gallon, or I'm right at the 5 gallon mark in that bucket. So we're cooking. I mean, that's a pretty good boil going on back there. Slow drip coming in, and I know you're seeing the siphon tubes right now. Realistically, they're not doing anything. I only have them there because the last bucket of sap that I had them primed in, I had to dump. I had to put into a holding tank. So that they're just there to not introduce any air into them, and without having to prime them in boiling sap. So then once this is empty here, so I'm going to drain this into the pan that I was warming it up on. which worked very well. That actually got pretty warm. So I'm going to pour this, I'm going to draw this off into that. I'm going to take this off, do a quick wipe down of it. This way there's no cross contamination of walnut with the maple that is going to be in there. And then once that is empty and ready to go back on, I'm going to take just a little bit of this hot sap, pour it into the bottom of this one. I don't burn the pan and ruin the pan. And then I will move those tubes carefully into here so that it will fill from that side to this side. And then we're back to where we were on the last batch and finish it off the rest of the way here. So that's the plan. And we're doing good as far as fire here. I did some of these, I guess I didn't split some of these as small as they should have. And I guess this batch was a little wetter than the last pieces that we're putting in. So I had 3 boxes of scrap wood here that were dry. Actually, they were several years old. And I've been using them for kindling to get these the fires going. So this box was the larger box. You can actually kind of see what's in here. There were scraps from my dad years ago. And so stuff like this, you know, it's all softwood for the most part. And using that to get the fires going was super helpful. So 2 boxes, it's like 2.5 boxes down just in this process here. But yeah, we're going good there. These are just a few pieces I have drying and priming to go in, just to make sure they're 100% dry. They're pretty dry, but just want to make sure, because we did have rain the other day. So, all right, let's flip this back around here. So things that I have learned over the last 42 days of, 43 days including today, 42 days of tapping and cooking. I believe this is batch number 7, if I remember correctly. Learned a lot this year. I learned a lot last year, and I learned even more this year. So this year, I'm going to try to start from bucket to boil here. Things I've learned along the way. Tapping is pretty straightforward, pretty simple. So there wasn't a whole lot that I learned that way. One thing that was something I should have caught, it's not really a learning thing, but now I know to keep an eye out for it, is when, I don't have the example here, but when you put a spile into the tree, you have to look at, if you're using the bucket and lid method, that bucket, when it dangles down, hangs down, if you have a weird curved tree or some weird angle on the tree, and that lid comes down, depending on how far that angle is, the lid can actually touch the tip of the spout here. So if this is the spile coming out of the tree, this is the tree here, spile's coming out, your bucket's hanging, okay, and you have your lid here that hinges up. So if your angle's like this, and you're supposed to hang like, there's supposed to be a little bit of a gap, because if it goes down too far, all that sap runs from where the tip of my finger is here, it'll just run straight down the lid and not go in the bucket. I had that happen for the first couple days, completely missed it. I didn't think that was going to be an issue. It was a quick remedy. I didn't re-drill any holes. What I did is I took a piece of paracord, 550 cord, tied a piece to a little scrap piece of wood, some small trimmings. I just hung that from there, and this way the bucket, it had a buffer, it kicked the bucket up a little bit more and spaced that off. So something to keep an eye out there. If you're using vacuum tube, it doesn't really matter. There's different style of bucket lids too, so you don't have to worry about that. I just gotta keep a close eye on here because we're under half a gallon and I don't want it to get burned. So next up would be, I don't think it's a necessity, but it is not wise to hang your buckets on the north side of trees. Not to say that you won't get sap that way, you will, I did. But the benefit to putting them on the south, anything other than the north side really, is that morning sun really gets to warm up anything that is frozen in the spile, in the tap itself. Once that's thawed out, it can allow the flow into the bucket go a lot quicker. If not, it creates a backup into the tree and then it doesn't flow into your bucket. So that morning sun is nice, so southeast, west, better examples of where to hang your bucket. So it's not a necessity. But you know that if you have north-facing buckets, that you're probably going to have to go clear the ice out first thing in the morning just to make sure everything is good to go for the rest of the day. Otherwise, it'll just take longer to thaw. That's all. That's all for at least the tree side of it. You know, the obvious of knowing, you know, keeping your stuff cooled, keeping it in a cool place to store out of the sun. In here, when I'm not cooking, it's actually pretty cold during the day. This doesn't warm up too much. Thankfully. So I usually just store everything in here. If I know it's going to be super hot, what I will do is, so this is south facing, so behind the camera where you are right now is actually the north side of, actually it's this way, is the north facing side. So during the hotter part of the day when the sun's actually over here, I know I can put my buckets in the shade on the other side if it gets too warm in here, and that's been working out fantastic. So just something to keep an eye on for storage. The rule of thumb is if the sap smells or tastes like you wouldn't drink it, then it's no good. Otherwise, so essentially treat it like milk. If it smells bad, throw it out. If it tastes bad, throw it out. And you know this if you have tasted and smelled good sap. So that's, you pretty much got to learn how to go from there. Cloudiness is not always a factor. Some of the stuff that I'm cooking right now is actually a little cloudy. Probably another day because yesterday was super warm. It stayed cool, but I think one more day of warm weather wouldn't have been good. So I'm like right on the edge, which is fine. I'm okay with that. And worst case, I don't give this to anybody and I just consume it. Worst case. But there's not going to be a major issue here. All right, so moving into here with the stove. A lot of people like to say that you need to have a forced induction fan to push air in. I don't think it's a necessity, depending on your interior setup of the bucket of the barrel stove. So I lined mine. I put a bag of all-purpose sand in there, and then some fire brick, and then I had some old cooking barbecue grills that I laid on top to add just a little bit of a barrier. Now I talked about this in some of the other videos that I have. The first cook, I didn't have those grills at all. The second cook, I put them in a different location, and it created a huge gap, and I didn't get a good burn that way either. So you don't want a massive air gap, and it's going to get filled up with ash anyway, but you do want some. You can't have none. I mean, you can, but it's just going to take more. So for all except for, I think, the first 1 or 2 cooks, I don't know if I did it on the second, definitely the first. But I think after the second barrel, the second batch, I stopped using my fan completely. And this has all just been natural. I've shown you that snorkel that comes out of the bung just for fresh air, to pull in air that's cooler, that's not directly. I might modify this in the future, but it's been working really, really good. I think the best thing that I should do is actually get flexible, flexible duct, and run it outside the shed, so it's actually getting cold outside, fresh air, nothing that's in here, and that might help as well. But right now, I'm not going to change that because it's working. I do leave the door cracked just a little bit. I've talked about that before. No more than 1.5 inches. Sometimes you don't even need that depending on the wood you're using. Smaller stuff you can leave a smaller crack. Larger stuff I leave it open a little bit more, but you will notice the more you open it, the more will come. You'll start to get more smoke coming out instead of drafting out of the stove. So you kind of got to play with where that sweet point is. Smaller pieces of wood. That was a suggestion that once I read that, I know someone who's watching this is the one who said it, and I don't remember your name, so thank you. Smaller pieces of wood burn. They ignite faster. They burn faster. Yes, you got to feed your stove a lot more often, but the payoff is better. Bigger pieces smolder more. You're not going to get hot as a flame. Better for inside your house. Like at nighttime, you want to put some big pieces of wood in. That's a different story. But for this purpose, you want smaller pieces of wood. Probably no thicker than your wrist. You want to keep it pretty small. And dry seasoned wood, of course. I've been using sycamore this entire time because that's what was available to me. It got dropped off over the summer, and I've been splitting it, and it's been working just fine. So that was a big thing. One thing I knew I didn't know last year, but I learned before doing the cook this year was to keep your sap level. You want to keep it as shallow as possible, not super, but so for me in these pans, which I believe are 5-gallon pans, I like to keep it around that 2 to 2.5 gallon mark. Let's see if this is too hot to touch here now, baby. When I hang this dipstick on, that second dot is 2 gallons. So I kind of know that when my level's here, I got 2 gallons, that's 1 gallon, and that's 3 gallons. So, and in between there are the halves, obviously. So I like to keep it around that 2 gallon mark. It happens to, I think with this, it works really, really well. And then once you have a really good boil going, and once you have like that preheater that wraps around the chimney, when you have that going just right, you can run a little bit more in the pan, but it has to all be boiling. It'll just take longer to, you can do it, it's just going to take longer to get a boil, and a boil's what you want because you're going to lose the most steam that way. So the siphon tubes were definitely a huge learning curve that I'm so happy about. I've talked about that in other videos, so I'm not going to hammer that down. Keeping those pans at equal height, equal temperatures, relatively, sped up my cook last time tremendously, and I will continue to use those. Next year, I may not have this dual pan setup. I may have a single a more professional pan evaporator, but still running a barrel stove. So I may not need those. I might sell them. I might sell these pans because they already got the valves on them. They're already good to go. I know they work, and I might just get rid of those with them. I don't know. We'll see what next year brings. And I may not, because I like having the option to do this. If I want to do a single pan, I can do that. And even if I didn't have, I could make, and I probably will, a block off for this bank. So if I only had enough to do one, I could just run the back and just put a blank here to be able to do that, a cover. So we'll see. Maybe I go to one big pan, maybe I don't. I don't know. This is now working, that I know about like the siphons and all that. It's working, so I might just keep it the way it is. That preheater is fantastic as well too. That is an entire 20-foot roll of copper tubing, 3/8 from Lowe's, Home Depot, wherever you want to get it. When I had a spare piece of chimney flue that's not on the chimney, so what I did is I wrapped it around that and then put it on. And the trick is you actually want to make it, you want to coil it a tad smaller than the actual chimney so that it hugs the chimney really well. And I'd have to show you up close, but on the chimney there, I actually put some of the chimney screws as a stopper in case it did decide to slide down. That's a stopper so that it won't fall all the way down. I did in my early one, I wrapped it too loose. It's still heated, but this is so much nicer. Putting a valve at the end. I also have a valve up on the bucket as well too, so I can control both coming out of the bucket and out of the tube. Gives me just more options for that. It doesn't have to be stainless. Copper and brass is good up to a certain temperature as well too, so you're fine there. The fan was a massive game changer as well too, which I would have done earlier on. I'm still going to play with it, having a hood. I got to make one, which is not going to be a big thing. I'll just get some sheet tin from the hardware store and just, I'll probably do it with paper and cardboard to make a template and then cut it out and rivet it together. That will catch more of it, but even today, like this morning, I have a little bit of moisture up here, but nothing compared to what it was in the early few batches. So those are some of the biggest learnings from out here, from the tree to here. Now, as far as the filtering inside, I've learned a ton with that too. The vacuum filter, which I'll have a link to that video as well, how you can build it, the DIY vacuum filter. Once I figured out, so here, I'll educate you on this one. If you don't know, maybe you already do. Maple sap syrup, at that point it's going to be syrup. It creates niter minerals over a certain temperature. So like right now, it's boiling, so it is currently creating niter. A lot of it you skim off when it froths to the top. However, as long as it stays above that temperature, niter is always going to form. May form slower, may form faster. And what I was doing in the beginning was going straight from the stove directly, once it finished, directly into the filter, and I was still getting sand in my bottles. So confused. I was like getting really frustrated until I finally read that the reason why you bottle at that 180 to 190 range is because, see, people usually talk about bacteria, which is true. That's why you want to bottle around that range. But it also is because niter continues to form. So even if you've filtered it and it's into the bottle, it's clean. If it's over that temperature, it's going to continue to create the minerals that you just filtered out. It was super frustrating. Once I realized that, of course that makes sense. So the last batch, what I did is once it reached the 66 bricks, now you have my hydrometer, got it perfect. Shut the stove off, put it onto a coal burner, and just let it sit. Left my thermometer in, and just watched it get. Now with my thermometer, I think it's off by a little bit, so I let it get to 201. Once it hit 201, I took it and dumped it into the vacuum filter with, and the filters now I'm soaking in hot water prior, and then I carefully squeeze them out so they're not dripping, because you don't want to reintroduce water. Put them in that way, and then once I ran the vacuum, then it actually sucked through. I didn't have any clogging issues, because that was the other issue. I was getting clogging because it was creating more niter as I was filtering it. Stupid, I know. I feel stupid now, but I'm saying this so that you don't have to feel stupid. And the syrup came out crystal clear. I didn't add any diatomaceous earth. You can do that if you want. I have it, but I didn't add any, and it came out perfect. It looks like store-bought syrup. And so that was a lot of frustration that I'm now happy I have sorted out. I think that's it. I really think that's all the things that I've really learned this year. I mean, I'm hooked, obviously. I have a structure now. I'm obviously hooked into doing maple syrup, and I'll do it every year. I'm so grateful that I've been blessed with this tree, the black maple that's right here. I built this right under the tree for a reason. It was one convenient place, but also it's right by the tree. And for the Norway maples down there, I know a lot of people, I've seen people call Norway maples just weeds. They're nuisances, but I got these big ones down there, and they're there. Sugar's sugar, in my opinion. I believe my neighbor has said that next year he's got a large black maple as well that I'll be able to, he said I could throw a few buckets on next year. Gave him a bottle of syrup as a little bit of a preview, which would be nice. And then one of my newer neighbors down the way said he found some more maples on his property, and I'm welcome to tap them as well. So my only solution next year that I have to figure out is storage. I would love to do reverse osmosis, is what I would love to do. I've seen those bucket ROs that are honestly not that expensive, and ultimately for those who don't know how reverse osmosis works, you have a series of filters, and the water goes into the first one. Well, it has a main filter, and then it goes on to these more fine filters. And at the bottom of each filter, there is two outs. One is the dirty, and one is clean. The clean goes to the next filter to get filtered, so it gets filtered even more. And then it just keeps going on depending on how many filter membranes you have. For house drinking water, you keep filtering the clean. For maple syrup reverse osmosis, you keep filtering the dirty. And your bad water, your dirty water, is actually the clean drinking water. So your wastewater is actually the clean product, whereas in your house it's the other way around. The waste product is actually full of minerals. We want to keep the minerals, so essentially that allows you to create a concentrate. So instead of boiling a sap that is only 2% or less in some cases, my trees are just under 2% for sugar. Instead of boiling sap that's 2%, you can get that down to 10 to 15% sugar, and that speeds up your cook process. So because the less water there is, the more minerals there are, it cooks faster. So that might be, instead of doing a bigger pan next year, I might just do the reverse osmosis. And if I do that, instead of doing more smaller batches, I may get a tank and just do fewer large batches. So like 40 gallons at a time or something like that, instead of these, smaller 20 to, my biggest was 30 gallons this year, but these smaller 15 to 20 gallon batches. This way, as long as the stove is open, as long as the stove is on, it's on, and then you just get your best bang for buck that way. So we'll see what happens. See, my boil went down a little bit because I threw too big of a piece in, but I will open that up, a little more air, and we're good to go. So yeah, I think that is really everything that I have learned, and what I would do differently, and what I will do again next year. So other than that, everything has worked out very well, especially the last batch. This batch is going well, even though it's a split, which is fine. Yeah, I don't know of anything else. I might overlay some stuff in this talking bit, because you're just looking at my face, and I know it's not what everybody wants to see. So, but yeah, if you have any questions that I didn't cover in this video, and you I'm not an expert. This is only my second season, and last year was a super short one. I only did it for 2 weeks. So, so I will say the last thing, if you're wondering why I pulled the taps, I think I said it in the beginning this morning, that my buds are just starting to open. Once you know what the maple buds look like, you can have a good eye for what because some of those buds are there all winter, but they just don't open up until the weather is proper. So right now I can feel and see that they're starting to just open up. So maybe I could have waited a couple more days. Wasn't worth it to me. I just pull them now. We had a beautiful day yesterday, good weather yesterday, so I'd rather be doing it then than in rain. So just do it now, count my blessings for what I have. Today's haul should put me over the 2 gallon mark for syrup, and not including the walnut. So that's I'm looking forward to it. I'm looking forward to do it next year. Looking forward to have more. I like to give it to people. If they feel so blessed as to pay me for it, they're fantastic. Same thing with our chicken eggs. We do the same thing. I'm not looking to make a profit here. I've been blessed with this. Let me bless you with what I have. And but I also got to keep enough maple syrup to feed us, because my wife and I really like it. A little update here, a couple hours later. The walnut is off, and actually I've already taken that inside and finished it. Got about 5 ounces from just shy of 5 gallons, and it is delicious. My first time having that. It is delicious. It seriously just tastes like maple syrup with butterscotch added in. Fantastic. So I'll probably do that again. And then we can see here, we're almost ready to pull this off. According to that little dipstick, I'm at about a half gallon in this pan, and since I'm running the siphons, that means they're about equal, and that means I got a half gallon in that pan. I need these to get down to about a half gallon total, so I got to watch it, because obviously a quarter gallon in this is going to be skimming it real shallow in here, so I don't want to go too shallow, otherwise run the risk of burning it. So I'd rather err on the side of caution and bring it in with more than less. But obviously this is cheaper to run than my electric stove inside, and this can get hotter too. I think that's going to be it. I might add some more here going on, so I'm not going to say goodbye, but in case I don't, I'm going to say thanks for watching. Now that maple syrup season is going to be over, it's going to be a wrap. I will return to content that is not maple related, for those who are like, oh, I just came here for the gun stuff, or oh, I came here for the chainsaw stuff, or I came here for the driving stuff. Okay, we're done with the maple syrup for now. We'll go back to that stuff. So that's all I got. Thank you. Have a good one. God bless.